Hello there, it's Casey again. Friday morning. Well, actually it's not quite morning. You might notice this video is a bit late going up today, if anyone's paying attention. Had some stuff going on this morning, so I'm a bit late going into work. But, well, I'm going now, so time for a chat. First thing I want to mention today, though, because it is Friday, is weekends. Because I don't work on the weekends. Because I don't work on the weekends, it means I won't be driving to work on the weekends. That means the weekend format's going to be a little bit different. What I'm planning on doing is we will have a Saturday video. I'll record that from my room, my little D&D office. And then on Sunday, probably won't upload anything unless something just really, really catches my attention and I have to say it. So yeah, the Saturday video might be a little bit longer. Might get into some of the stuff that I mentioned previously about my current campaign. But for today, I want to talk about bad guys, enemies, people that are against your players. Because I think a lot of people, especially DMs that have not been doing it for as long, have quite a set mentality for who the bad guys are. They are always evil alignment people who are looking to take over the world and or destroy the world. And that's why the heroes have to go up against them. That could not possibly be further from the truth. The truth is, the bad guys in your game is anybody who doesn't agree with your players. A few examples. Yeah, your heroes are heroes. They're out trying to make the world a better place. They're trying to save people. But, you know, they're not actually the people whose job that is. And in doing that, more likely than not, they break a few laws. So you could actually have local law enforcement, whether it's the King's Guards or, you know, the town militia. They could be the bad guys. Because even though your players say that they're doing good, they're not doing it legally. You know, this could actually set up a confrontation where your group, you know, a bunch of good characters, end up having to decide, do we fight the paladin that is here on orders of the king? Or do we surrender and hope we can explain ourselves? And that adds a different kind of conflict to the game. It adds a moral struggle to the game. It also does something which old D&D used to do quite well, and new D&D tends to forget about. Alright, sorry about that. You'll notice a cut in the video. I got a phone call, so sorry about that. Picking up where we left off, old D&D, new D&D. Old D&D used to do it, new D&D doesn't do it. What am I talking about? Using the other axis of alignments. Now, everybody knows good, evil, law, chaos. You know, you become lawful good, neutral evil, whichever. But I would actually say it even started as early as 3.5. But in 5e especially, if you look at a lot of it, the conflict is very much between good and evil. And most games that you hear about are good versus evil. There's not much talk about law versus chaos. Now, what I'm saying there is that there is an entire half of the alignment spectrum that's being neglected by a lot of games. Now, what does this mean? You have to bear in mind that the lawful versus chaotic alignment works just like the good versus evil alignment. And what I mean is, whereas you can have a group where lawful good, neutral good, and chaotic good characters all work together because they are all working for good, it is possible, although it is a little bit harder, you have to work a little bit more at it, to have a group of lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil characters that all work together. Chaotic doesn't work very well with anyone, so that gets a bit harder. But law, chaos, order versus freedom. Robin Hood was as much a fighter for chaos as he was for good. He fought against the established system. He fought to free the people from the law. And that's something that sometimes I think it's worth focusing on. I mentioned having lawful good, lawful evil working together. And I know a lot of people think, no way, you're crazy, it just won't work. Believe me, it can work. It works very well, actually, if it's done right. And to point that out, I'm going to mention a couple characters from a quite old series of books now that probably nobody watching this has read, the Dragonlance novels. Now, those novels were where I cut my teeth when I started reading about Dungeons and Dragons. An amazing world, amazing stories, a little bit crazy sometimes, but I like my D&D like that, so that's a good thing. And you ended up in those books in the Fifth Age trilogy, I believe it was, Dragons of... I forget which of the Dragons of books it was. It was the fifth Dragons of book, I guess. So the second book in the second trilogy. You had a couple cousins, and they didn't know each other growing up, but their fathers had known each other. Their names were, I believe it was Caraman Magier's son, Tannen Magier, and Steel Brightblade, the son of Sturm Brightblade in the books. And these guys could not have had different upbringings. One was raised to be a loyal knight of Solamnia. Now, Dungeons and Dragons doesn't really have paladins because they don't get clerical magic, but the knights are paladins in every other way. Their code, their law, their order, their... everything about them is paladin. They just don't get healing spells or other nifty magic abilities. Steel Brightblade, on the other hand, he had a very different upbringing. His father died before he was born. His mother ended up in an awkward situation. He ended up being raised by a very evil man. A man who was actually defeated in his youth by the Knights of Solamnia, and who realized that the reason they lost was the Knights were orderly. Not because they were good, but because they used tactics. They had codes, they had brotherhood. And so he did the smart thing to do. He founded an order of Dark Knights. The Knights of Takesis. And these guys were everything the Knights of Solamnia were. They had codes and law and honor and respect for each other. but they were completely dedicated to darkness. They were bad. Believe me. Bad. But a situation came about where a being that was, in essence, pure chaos arrived and wanted to tear the world apart and destroy it. And these two cousins ended up meeting together, basically in the trenches on the battlefield. One of them took the other prisoner. I won't give away too much about what happened there, but while one was the other's prisoner, as it happened, they talked and they spoke, and they realized that in a lot of ways they were very much alike, and that both of them wanted to make sure that chaos didn't destroy the world. And you found these two cousins, one completely and totally devoted to the honorable tenets of good, and one of them completely and totally devoted to an honorable brotherhood of evil, working together. Because, well, neither one of them got what they wanted if chaos destroyed everything. And that's kind of where I'm going with the enemies, to bring it back to that. You have to pick enemies that mean something to your group. Or you have to give the group a reason that the enemies mean something through gameplay. But good and evil is far too obvious. You know? Try having an order of paladins as the group's bad guy. And see how people who see themselves as good people react when all of a sudden they realize that the good guys are chasing them and calling them bad guys. It will throw your game into a whirlwind. It will throw your players into a whirlwind. But you just might get a good game out of it. Anyway, I have talked a lot longer than I intended to, so I'm going to close it off there. And have a great day. See you tomorrow for the Saturday video. Like I said, it might be a bit longer than normal. And as always, like, subscribe, all of that if you want to. Give me your comments. I'm also going to include my new closing sequence and a link to another guy on YouTube that I think is absolutely amazing. He doesn't know I'm linking to him, but hopefully he won't mind. Matt Koval, great guy. Watch everything he puts on the internet, and he's a big part of the reason I decided to start doing this. Him sharing what he knows has made me think that maybe somebody might listen to some of the things I know too. Anyway, later on. Bye.